Assalamu alaikum everyone. It's me, Uzma Azam, the founder of Healing House. So, first of all, a very warm welcome to a new episode of The Healing House by Uzma Azam. So, we all know we use a term called people pleasing or people pleaser. We usually labelize each other with this term called people pleaser. And we say to each other that you are a people pleaser or he or she is a people pleaser. But who actually people pleaser is? And what is that phrase actually mean? What does those words actually mean? For that, we have an amazing guest today who is an expert in it. And the topic today today episode is people pleasing. So we have an amazing guest with us, that is Lala. Let her join the meeting. She is almost here. Yeah. So, hey Lala, welcome to the show. She is right here.
Okay. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Lala, how are you?
Hi, hi. Yeah, really, really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for giving me an honor to host you, and thank you so much for giving us time because time is everything these days. So thank you so much for giving us time.
Yes.
So, Lala, today, we are going to discuss about people pleasing, and you are an expert in that, and you know much better than anyone else. Okay, so but before going into details about that, I would love to have your introduction for my audience.
Yes, of course. No worries. So my name is Lala, and for over 10 years, I have used holistic approach to healing people-pleasing tendencies and helping women to let go, of emotional baggage, understand and meet their own needs and become their authentic and confident self, whether it's finding their own voice, building their boundaries, and having overcome the struggles that come with people-pleasing. I 100% committed to share everything that I've learned along my journey with you and with your audience as well, so that you could raise your standards and live on your terms.
That's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable knowledge and details about what actually people pleasing is. So, starting it from the question, the first question would be, who is a people pleaser?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for this question. It's a very great question because sometimes people don't even know they people please. So indeed, let's identify a people pleaser. So people pleaser is a person who has an emotional need to please others, neglecting while they're neglecting their own needs or desires. So they put everybody else's needs in front of their needs, and they have hard time to set, communicate, and maintain boundaries, and they have hard time to say no to people. So people pleasing, really, we can look at it as a mechanism, like a protective mechanism, in order to not get hurt by someone else's possible rejection. So who is a people pleaser? So people pleaser often lacks strong life foundations. They don't know who they are, what they want. They don't know their boundaries. They don't know their values, and they don't know their beliefs. So often people pleasers seek validation because they struggle with their own self-worth and their identity.
Okay.
And so they often don't plain don't know who they are. So I'm hoping that that explains a little bit.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. You just said that basically they are not aware with their own self. So they don't know about the boundaries, they don't know about what actually they are doing, and they are not assertive, they can't say no. So continuing to it, if
Uh,
ask you that why does a person become a people pleaser? Is there any kind of certain reason behind it?
yes, absolutely. And the people pleasing mostly comes from, and if not always, comes from our childhood. So when as children, our emotions weren't met by our parents, or we were dismissed, where we felt abandoned, where our parents just say, "Oh, don't cry. Stop crying, you're going to look ugly," or "Stop crying, stop being a little girl or little boy." And so as kids, we learned how to suppress our emotions and put on the brave face. And
Mhm.
so that's where, so parents' emotional unavailability, where they brush our emotions or ignore them. So parents shaming a child who has emotions. So
Okay.
for example, if a boy or a girl are crying and they comparing um are crying you, for example, you as a child, as if you're crying and they're comparing you to another child and saying, look, that that little child boy is not, or girl is not crying, but you are. So they're somehow better than you are. Do
Okay.
you know what do you know
Yeah.
where I'm coming from? So as kids, we learn to suppress that crying is bad, that telling what we want. For example, if we as children said, "Oh, we want to be a scientist," and your mom and dad looked at you and go, "No, you are going to be a teacher." And so
Okay.
they suppress our dreams, or they ridicule our desires to be something more than they are, or we are. And someone ridicules your desires, so that can cause a real big problem, like a challenge to express yourself and be confident in the future. So that's where it's coming from,
Okay.
depending on what happened in your childhood.
Okay, so you just have mentioned what actually has happened to a child in the childhood. So connecting to
Yeah.
this, can we say that uh, it's learned, it's or it can be inborn or innate as well?
So it can be innate when a child watches one of the parents or both parents sharing that, like having that people pleasing behavior, showing that people pleasing behavior on a daily basis. So, for example, if one parent, like it happened in my family, and I'm going to share with you a little bit what happened in my family that made me a big, big people pleaser and then caused me years of, you know, overcoming that,
Yeah.
is that my mom was a big people pleaser and my dad was a very, very aggressive type.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom didn't know how to stand up. My mom didn't know how to show, her boundaries. So I was watching her overextending herself. I was watching her over apologizing, taking in the bad behavior, forgiving the behavior that shouldn't have been forgiven, and things like that. And so, me as a child, I am watching this and I go, okay, this behavior is okay. Bad behavior is okay. Swearing in the family is fine. So, when you watch one parent or both parents, express that behavior, you as a child, because you're just a learning organism,
Mm-hmm.
you automatically think that that's okay. That's normal. That becomes your program. People pleasing is normal. So that is a definitely innate and learned behavior from someone. We definitely are not born people pleasers. We
Okay.
learn it from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and from our peers as well, from the colleagues, from our friends. It's all about, but the parents, if parents don't teach us
Mm.
self-esteem and our self-worth
That's true.
from our childhood, the
Mm-hmm.
chances are we are always going to be show. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go
can
on.
we say that a person who is more submissive, who submits herself or himself more often, uh, he can be a people pleaser. And as you just have,
Yes.
yeah.
hmm hmm Yeah, go on.
Okay, so as you just have mentioned as well, that we learned mostly from our parents because the childhood connection is more with the parents or either the teachers, I would say. So when it comes to, basically learning, it's a kind of social learning theory that we basically replicate what they do. Is it that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. We are like mirrors and we are like sponges. So whenever we grow and we learn, like you said, we're in the learning phase. We learn from our authorities, and our first authorities are our parents, right? And then, like you said, our teachers. And so we basically just learn from them everything. And then if you were raised and born in a loving family, where you can have an example of what love is, and it's mutual respect and
Hmm.
it's mutual appreciation. That will be your program of love. Okay, love is respect and appreciation and value and all this kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
when you have complete opposite, when one is suppressed and the other one have to submit, the key here to your question though, the key here is about the submission, right? If a person wants to serve, by all means, that's not people pleasing. There's a difference between people pleasing and true service.
Okay.
So the key difference here is when it really brings you joy to serve people.
Hmm.
It brings you joy to serve your husband, to serve people around you. If you love this, truly love this,
Hmm.
that's not people pleasing. This is your service, your love for doing this. You love doing this. But if you have to, and if behind this is a need for validation, need for someone to praise you, and it's like then it can become quite unhealthy. That's people pleasing. That's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Does
just,
it make sense?
yeah, it obviously
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing the difference between
Yeah.
both because
Great.
that was an important point as well. Um, Besides that, you just have mentioned the self-esteem, and you have mentioned um, if you are
Yeah.
doing it with your own will, that's a willpower as well, like it's your services you are giving. But if there's a kind of validation behind it, and if you are doing it for validation, that was an amazing point. Connecting to that, my question basically was that what kind of emotions are connected to a person, or what
hmm
kind of emotions a person has who is a people pleaser?
Oh, look, people pleasing can cause a spectrum of different emotions. Obviously, it can be deep sadness, it
Mhm,
can be deep loneliness, it can be resentment, it
mhm,
can be a very, very big one is fear of loneliness. I don't know if it's an emotion, I don't think it's an emotion, but all the emotions that causes. So if a person scared of loneliness, they will do that will cause a fear of rejection.
mhm,
So because people fear in rejection, they will people please. They will do anything the other person says because they don't want to be alone. They're so
mhm,
scared of it.
mhm.
So that's one of the biggest in my coaching practice. One of the biggest reason is fear of loneliness,
Okay.
and which causes stress, anxiety, depression, low self-worth, low self-esteem, codependency, unhealthy relationships.
Mm,
So everything that comes with it that causes sadness, and then that causes bodily dysfunction, bad
mm.
emotion, stored emotion causes diseases. So you know how it's all connected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a kind of, a kind of cycle that is just, running and running. Um, okay,
yeah.
exactly. You just should mention, we are learning it, but there would be some risk factors, like a kind of personality type. There would be some personality type that is very people pleaser. Is it that kind of thing as well?
Well, I don't truly, I don't really believe that there is any personality type that can be more susceptible to people pleasing. I think everybody
Mm,
can be susceptible to people pleasing, and it's not dependent on personality type, depends on your upbringing. It
okay.
really depends on your upbringing, what your values are, how you brought up, your model of the world, how you brought up to see this world, to
Hmm.
see the people around you,
Hmm.
to associate yourself with your peers, with your relationship with your partners and your friends and colleagues. And I believe that any personality, any type, it doesn't depend on a personality. Everybody, I believe, can people please.
Hmm.
And a lot of you know what interesting fact of the matter is, people don't even realize that they people pleasing sometimes. Like my partner, he thought that he was this confident person, but then when I started share with him what people pleasing signs are, he was like, "Oh my God, that is totally me. That
Okay.
is totally me. I am a total people pleaser because I can't say no."
Okay.
So you can be, the thing is, even the most confident person
Hmm.
in the room can be a people pleaser if they don't know their values,
Hmm.
and if they don't stick to, and they don't stick to them, and they don't know their boundaries, and they don't practice them,
Hmm.
and they don't set them, don't communicate and don't maintain them. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what personality type you are.
Yeah.
If you don't have that strong foundation of knowing your truth
Hmm.
and what your values are, no matter how confident you are, someone can come into your life and ask you to do something, and you're like, oh, but that goes against my value. I don't drink past 5 p.m. But someone says, oh, come on, it's only one drink, or it's only, stay a little bit longer. And you're like, okay, it doesn't matter. Confidence or personality type doesn't matter. The
Hmm.
person's just pushed someone else's boundaries.
Okay.
And because you want to be a nice person,
Huh.
because you don't want to be that boring friend,
Hmm.
you kind of like, okay, all right, I'll do it. You just please someone else
Hmm.
despite your own boundaries. So
Okay.
that's how it works.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's exactly what you have said earlier, that it's a validation we are looking for. A person who is a people
yeah,
pleaser, we are
yeah,
basically looking for a validation, external validation more than internal validation. And exactly,
absolutely.
this was a very good point you just have shared about the boundaries and, the assertiveness. How can we say no? I would love to, share with my audience through you, like you just share some tips or strategies, how a person, if he is a people pleaser, how he can manage himself, or what are the strategies to come out of or overcome this specific trait of the pleasing people. What could be the strategies?
Yes, so basically it's a process, and it's basically like for me it's a six-step process,
Hmm.
and each process requires patience, of course,
Sure.
and a lot of practice
Hmm.
and time. So first of all, what we have to do here, if you're really serious, if you're like enough is enough, I don't want to be people please anymore. I want to know my values. I want to know about, I want to be genuinely and genuinely happy.
Mm.
What you have to do is have an honest conversation with yourself and really check where are you unhappy in your life. It requires an honest assessment as to where your life is at this point in time
Mm.
in relationship, finances, emotion, connection, correct, career, spirituality,
Mm.
self-development, etc. Right? So there's all these aspects of your life that you have to look in. This is what we do in my program as well, and rate that. So from 0 to 10, how do you rate your career situation?
Mm.
How do you rate from 0 to 10? How do you rate your emotional health, your mental health, etc.? So you have to be really honest with yourself where you are right now
Mm.
and where do you want to be, right?
Mm.
And that's a process. So the second step is then you understand what your goals are in all of those aspects. Okay, what
Mm.
do you want? Where do you want to be? What is your ideal situation, right? And that's going to bring you fulfillment,
Mm.
right? And so the third step is like, in order to understand your needs and desires, you need to lay those foundations for your life. And you need your truth, the I am statement, who I am, knowing who you are and who you are not,
Mm.
so that nobody can come into your life and tell you you're a bad person. But
Mm.
in your heart of hearts, you know you're a good person. Nobody can change your mind.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, you are,
Mm.
and like some Joe blogs come and start swearing at you, but it ricochets because it doesn't bother you. You know who you are,
Mm.
right? So
That's
that's the truth. That's the foundation. Your values, your boundaries, and your beliefs. So this is also that's something that I teach in my program. How to there's another separate process of how to lay these foundations
mm.
to know who you are. Yeah.
True.
So the fourth step is to make peace with your emotional baggage.
Mm.
We all carry something from the past. We all carry something that at some point hurt us,
True.
makes us sad or upset, and a lot of the time people pleasers, they don't share it.
Mm.
We suppress it and we keep it inside because we don't we're scared of something.
It's
There is some sort of fear.
true.
So first of all, we need to forgive and let go and accept our emotional past that doesn't equal our future,
Mm.
and then take emotional release therapy, and learn emotional hygiene to clean out our emotional jar. So what that means is, and I'll share with your um, audience, that letting out emotions is actually really, really healthy.
Okay.
Suppressing our tears,
Mm.
having our tears suppressing, because we have this emotional jar running from our throat down to our coccyx, so the bottom, kind of like near the bottom. And so, you know how we usually say, oh, I've got a lump in my throat, or
Mm.
not easy on my chest. So that area is where we store our emotions. And so, you know how sometimes you have a cry?
True.
Sometimes we have a cry, and then after that, we feel really good after like a good cry.
That's true.
Um, yeah. We feel so much better. And
Mm.
that is the energy that is stored and that need to be released.
Mm.
So that is called in therapy emotional hygiene.
Okay.
That people should, I always recommend that we look, because we clean our body, we go to the shower, right?
Mm.
We do the mental health rituals, but we usually don't do anything for our emotions. We just suppress them, or when it piles up, it's up to here, we start screaming and yelling and crying and uncontrollably crying. But if we just let ourselves to
It's
express them,
mm-hmm.
then it's empty, then there is nothing stored. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to shout, you don't have to explode,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because it's empty. So basically, this is the fourth step.
Okay.
And the fifth step is raise your standards. So basically, um, determine your life terms, terms for your life.
Hmm.
What do you want to do? How do you want to live your life? What are you going to do to love yourself a little more every day? Are you going to say incantations or affirmations? Do you want to connect to nature more? Do you want to connect to, or write in a journal?
Hmm.
Is that going to help you find your approach, your individual approach to self-love, to something that makes you happy every single day.
Hmm.
Setting boundaries and practicing them. Say yes to opportunities that come into your life,
Hmm.
right? Someone told you, "Oh, do you want to go for a walk?" And you're like, "Ah, we don't want to." Well, I mean, you can say no if you really mean to, but
Hmm.
sometimes, in order to feel good, we need to kind of take those opportunities,
Hmm.
to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sixth step basically is just be compassionate for yourself.
Hmm.
Be compassionate. Be kind to yourself
Hmm.
and give yourself time, give yourself permission to be imperfect. You know, teach perfectionism and just be who you are. And yeah, these are my six steps
And
to
the
basically,
these are the
yeah.
major
Mm-hmm.
steps, it's like a kind of, we usually say healing is a process. It's not just you just have started it and it will be done. Same goes for the therapy. So I think the steps you have shared was started from a very basic ground level and reached to the level where a person can actually be compassionate about it. So thank you so much, Lala, for sharing this. But still, I would ask one more question. That is,
Yeah.
people find it quite difficult while setting the boundaries. Okay, and when
Yeah.
we talk about
Mhm.
boundaries can be in any aspect, okay? But
Yeah.
how a person can set the boundaries?
Well, you see, set of boundaries is that, again, coming back to basics, you need to look at different aspects of boundaries. So, boundaries for your relationship, boundaries for your work, intimate boundaries, there is spiritual boundaries, emotional, mental, and money boundaries.
Hmm.
So basically, we look at all of these different boundaries
Hmm.
and we learn to commute to set them. So, for example, you understand, like, say one boundary is money boundaries, right?
Hmm.
Well, say let's just randomly take money boundaries.
Okay.
So money boundaries can be, or whatever. Choose any boundary. Choose
Hmm.
any boundary that you want.
It's a relationship boundary.
Okay, say relationship boundaries. That's perfect. So in a relationship boundaries, say for example, your partner rolls your eyes whenever you ask something of them, and they go, "Oh, okay." Or you remind them, "Can you please fix the table?" Or "Can you please take the trash out?" And then go, "Oh my God, okay," and you don't like it. It makes you feel bad. It makes you feel dismissed. It makes you feel small. And you go, "Oh, okay, you can brush this feeling aside. You can suppress it.
Hmm.
You can swallow it, or you can communicate and say, darling, I appreciate our relationship, but when you roll your eyes, it makes me feel like I am small and I am dismissed and just makes me feel bad.
Hmm.
And can you please don't don't do this or do this instead? Can you please let me know that you're gonna do it later?"
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That's all.
Okay.
And so what you need to do, it's kind of like a formula. So first you inform the person
Hmm.
of what hurt you, but not to the point, like, not, don't say, "Oh, you did this and you caused this and now I'm feeling like this, you rolled your eyes," and all this kind of stuff. You just say how you feel, how it made you feel.
Hmm.
Focus on, instead of pointing fingers, point fingers at your feelings. It made me feel bad. So I'd really appreciate that next time I'm asking you something, please tell me that you don't want to do this right now. You're going to do it half an hour later. No problem. Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to do instead, whatever it is that you want to do instead. But you have to let them know because otherwise they don't know what to do instead.
True.
They haven't learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but if the next time they do it, you let them know that if you don't, you've done it again. So if this behavior is going to continue, you are going to lose access to me for 3 hours or the whole day, whatever it is that you want,
True.
whatever it is that you want to say is,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to tell them what consequences are if they're not gonna respect your boundary.
Mm-hmm.
That is just an example, right? That is just an example,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be applied so to anything really. So it basically informing them about how it hurt you. What would you like instead?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, what wouldn't, there is a step between what good will happen
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to follow through. For example, if you are going to not going to roll your eyes, and if you're going to tell me that I'm going to do it half an hour later,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to make me feel so much better. That's just going to make me feel so much better. And that's going
Mm-hmm.
to build trust, and I'm going to be happier, and I am not going worried, and all this kind of stuff. So you're basically going to inform what good is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they still push your boundaries, if they still ignore it, then you can kind of add a little cheeky consequence that's going to happen, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to follow through. You have to follow through. If you can tell them, sorry, you're not going to have access to me for the whole day, you have to follow through. This is how we train them.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, nobody's been trained how to respect our boundaries. So will kind of um, help them
Mm-hmm.
to understand what you want as
Mm-hmm.
well. Does it make any sense there? Does it make sense?
This was the easiest way ever I have listened. To be very honest, it was the easiest way to understand and absorb it. So thank you so much, Lama, for giving us such an
Awesome.
amazing time. And through all this, conversation, what I have learned is to be aware of your own self first. Because until and unless you are not aware about your own self, how can you reach the stage of being compassionate about your own self? Okay, so awareness is really really
Absolutely.
important. Either is it being an assertive person, either it is setting boundaries for your own self, either it is creating a good environment for your own self, either it is taking the validation inside you and believing in you. So I think awareness has a major role in it. So you have explained it in a very easy words and I just loved it. Thank you so much for giving such an amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us amazing time, and for sure we will see some other time in a in a very good way, in a good mood, inshallah. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure to share my passion. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. And I really, really hope that your audience is going to listen and take some of this in. And I really, really hope that, I've given some value to your audience and that will help somebody out there for sure.
For
Thank you.
sure, for sure. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.